So, ladies and not ladies, thank you for coming. My goal here is to talk about toothbrushing, right? Teeth brushing, brushing your teeth. And you can join every talk during this day of talking about philosophy and tech. You can join at this QR code and just like read the previous notes of the other talks, or write on them, or like correct my typos, or whatever you want. Like just share links if you want, things like that. You can just do this, or not. Like I'm not trying to force you to do this. Just see if you're interested in that. Yeah. And have you ever been in a hotel? Right, and like in a hotel room, not like sleeping arrangements, right? Not like we are right now, but like upstairs. And have you ever noticed that hotels lack toothpaste? Right? Not every hotel in the world, but like usually when you go to a hotel and you go to the bathroom, you don't have toothpaste. It's a norm, like as a rule of thumb. Usually what happens, yeah?
Thanks to you, I noticed in Korea they have.
Right. Like it is a problem that got me curious at some moment, and as I do when I do not understand why people do things, I spend a total normal amount of time on the internet looking at this problem. And but because total normal amount of time invested. And it is a problem that got the better of me because it made no sense. Like, I mean, it's not that big of a problem, but like, people brush their teeth every day, I hope so, like usually. Like you're not like using shampoo every day, right? Hopefully. Like shampoo every day is bad for your hair. Like you should be like doing 2 to 3 times a week. But like you should be brushing your teeth several times per day. So it doesn't make much sense, right? But you always have shampoo in hotels rooms, right? Pretty much you can count on it. You can count with a lot of toiletries in hotels. And not toothpaste. Why? Right? That it got on my nerves. Because since 2001, for reasons, even when you travel by plane, you have to have a budget for liquids, right? And toothpaste is taking my budget for liquids. And when I go to a very luxurious hotel, I never had toothpaste, but I left things like a shower cap and milk for my skin and things like that, but never toothpaste. Isn't it strange? Like, I don't like that. Like, it seemed like incongruent. So I spend a total normal amount of time on the internet looking for that information. And I discovered, for example, that you can ask almost any hotel for a dental kit. Have you ever seen a dental kit? No? So let's see a dental kit, like hotel dental kit. So hotel dental kits are things like this, right? I'll just copy and paste in the thing itself, right? It comes in a little box and has a little toothbrush and it has a tiny little toothpaste thing. And you can basically go to any hotel reception and ask for a dental kit, and they just give you one, right? But like, you have to know that there's an option, right? It's never clearly stated, A, and B, it's kind of wasteful. Like, if you want to brush your teeth, you have like almost enough to brush once or twice, like depending on your generosity, maybe 3 times if you really, really skim on it. And then you throw in away a lot of plastic, and it always comes with a dental brush, which kind of once yours, or you don't need to throw away or have another one every day. So like, is awkward a solution? Yeah? It's a very awkward solution. And wasteful, right? And nobody even uses the same shampoo all the time. People have different kind of airs and things like that. Okay, just like, toothpastes are safer bet. So I looked into it, and there are many things that make a hotel successful in the eyes of people, right? One thing is the note the hotel has on things like TripAdvisor and things like that. Like people that go to the hotel put on the internet, Yelp, TripAdvisor, things like that. They put on the internet notes, comments about the hotel itself that influence hotel behavior. So it happens that people usually are not making bad notes saying, elect toothpaste. But like, we can't change that. Like, if you remember one thing from this talk, start putting like bad reviews for hotels saying elect toothpaste, and maybe hotels will start having toothpaste, right? So that's on our power, right? Let's do that. And another thing that makes or breaks a hotel, we cannot change and has nothing to do with toothpaste, is location, yeah? Hotel location, like usually you do not travel to a hotel, you travel to a place and the hotel is there and is useful to you, yeah? That's usually how it goes. So that has nothing to do with toothpaste, yeah? And a third thing that makes a lot for hotel success is whether the hotel followed the list of topics given by the hotel association, international hotel associations, that give you stars, right? And friends, that list does not have toothpaste. Now, that solves my initial question, but opens a way more interesting question. Why does the list created by the International Hotel Association does not have toothpaste? Right? Because it has a lot of things. It has, like, what size of a bathtub you should have to be a 5-star hotel. If you have a bathtub, it has a minimum size, for example, is in the list. But it doesn't have toothpaste. Why, right? Because it's still important toothpaste. Why does that list lacks toothpaste? And I spent a total normal amount of time looking into this, and that list lacks toothpaste because it is done as a description, as a statistical thing. They look at hotels, look at what the hotels have, and they put on the list. It's a list of things that good hotels have. So the hotels did not have toothpaste, so it did not went into the list. Right? So we have a very common thing that is very frequent to our jobs. We have a meeting between the descriptive and the prescriptive. We have a list. It was made as a description. It describes a reality that was observed, right? It was made as a description of what hotels that we find good had. And it's instantly treated as a prescription, what we should have, what we should be. And that there is nothing wrong about writing following prescriptions. There's nothing wrong about writing descriptions and reading descriptions. But is there something fundamentally tragic about treating a description as a prescription? Right? It doesn't bode well for innovation, for example, because you're just following whatever other people did before. This is not a reference to ChatGPT, but like it could. So you're just treating whatever was there as the thing to be. It's very stable, but it creates this kinds of weirdness like the hotels lack toothpaste. Yeah? It's not sound design. It's just existing. Make sense? Okay. So, then I have a very interesting question after that, like, why people do that? Why do we treat the descriptive as prescriptive? And we will get to that. It's the main topic of the talk. I'll get to that later. I'll start elsewhere first. Yeah? Let's do this. So, any skill that you can do, you can improve, right? Somebody was here in the first talk of the day? No? Maybe? Yeah. I talked about being deliberate about improving stuff, right? I gave the example this morning about people that learn to cook, they will spend some time improving the skill of cutting vegetables. Cutting vegetables per se does not make you better at cooking, but if you are going to cook professionally, you're going to be cutting a lot of vegetables, might as well learn to cut this very efficiently, right? Being deliberate about what small skills make the big gains, right? Have you ever heard about the modified bass technique for brushing teeth? No? Yes? Modified bass technique. Yeah? The best way to brush your teeth. Yeah? No? Never heard about that? Okay, so as one does, as any skill that exists, brushing teeth is a skill that can be improved. As any skill that can be improved, there is a craft community of that skill. Of course, like, why wouldn't it, right? And that community has forums, of course. I mean, don't be surprised by that. They have it. They have discussions. They have flame wars. And they have ideas, a meta game of what are the best techniques to do this. Yeah? This happens to any skill. Like, it happens to design, it happens to coding, it happens to brushing teeth. Yeah? And in the overall meta game, which I spent a total normal amount of time looking into, there are many discoveries to be made. For example, there are different techniques of how we brush. There are important things to remember, like electrical toothbrushes are way better than manual ones, but like there is no comparison between that. But an electrical toothbrush that has like a sensor to like know if you're putting too much pressure is invaluable because people put too much pressure on the toothbrushes by default. So learning to have this gentle touch is important. And big surprises like hard toothbrushes are worse for cleaning your teeth. Like, that I was not expecting that one. Anyway, and they have those discoveries, right? Have those debates, and debates between experts, debates between people that are at a high level of brushing teeth, yeah? And debates that makes no difference for people that are not at the level of brushing teeth, because like you are at different considerations, yeah? Make sense? So, did you know that the World Health Organization publishes every year a guide for toothbrushing? No, it does. I have, for the sake of this presentation, read all the guys since the 70s until now. And someone had to do it. The World Health Organization optimizes for advices that could be used for most people. So it's not like saying things like it's not like the forums saying things like you should be doing the modified best technique with a lateral version. That's not in the guide, right? But it has like preoccupations like the level of fluor and should you brush your tongue, for example, which, by the way, was advised in the 70s, but is no longer advised. And have things like, should you spit or not your toothpaste, right? You should spit your toothpaste, but you should not wash your mouth after spitting, right? Do not swallow the toothpaste, but do not rinse your mouth afterwards, right? So let's say that you are part of this craft community of people doing this at a very high level, and you are using the modified best technique with an electrical toothbrush, and you started moving away from rinsing your mouth after brushing your teeth, right? Make sense? So you start telling people, hey, we should stop rinsing our mouth, yeah? Let's give it a beautiful name. Like, let's call it rinseless brushing. Let's even give it a little, like, 3 letters thing. Like, it's now the RLB. RLB is rinseless brushing, right? And you start, like, promoting RLB to people in companies because you believe in this and you find it's important to do that, yeah? And let's suppose even that your clients start telling you, hey, do you want to be an RLB expert to promote rinseless brushing in your company? Yes? And the thing is, maybe you find that strange. Maybe you start saying, hey, I don't, like, I care about rinseless brushing, but I care about oral hygiene in general, and I'm not like, this is just a small technique. This is not the only focus. We should not be doing only that. Depending on what you're doing right now, we should do something else. But like, you are now the RLB expert, and maybe you just accept the title without taking much problems with that. Yes? Maybe? Any parallel we could make with TDD and DDD and a lot of things is like entirely desired. Please do that, those parallels. So we start promoting it. And people that are not brushing their teeth today will probably not benefit a lot from rinseless brushing. It's just the sad reality of it, yeah? Like, they have other problems to solve, like brushing their teeth at all, right? You are there to promote rinseless brushing, but like, you discover when you enter that you should be promoting just like brushing, yeah? You're like reordering your ambitions in the scope of your what you're proposing. Make sense to you? Ever done that with anything? Yeah, good, we're good. Makes sense. Okay. So you propose that, and then you start asking questions of like, why are people not brushing their teeth? Why do you think people don't brush their teeth in real life? Like, outside of this very silly example I'm giving, like, people could be like depressed, people could be by many different reasons, right? You start asking questions of why they don't brush their teeth. And once you start questioning that, you start getting like to systems thinking, and you start getting to things like, hey, people, maybe in my company, they are not doing this basic thing at all because they spend the whole time just like producing everything else, and there's no time to do this and things like that, right? And then we start getting into prioritizations and questions of power and questions of oppression in the company, things like that. And now you are being accused of basically being a communist, right? You were being there to talk about rinseless brushing. You start talking about brushing, then you start talking about power. Like, we are far away from rinseless brushing now, yeah? The interconnectedness of this all makes this a pain. Make sense? Yeah. So, maturity models. Have you ever heard about radial surfacing? No, no. Surfacing.
It's like when you map topology, usually.
Okay, so that's a beautiful application, but no, it's not that one I'm talking about. I'm talking about on the toothbrushing domain. On the bounded constants of toothbrushing, you have something called radial surfacing. Radial surfacing is like, have you ever removed a tartar from your teeth? Right? Radial surfacing is the extreme version of that. We need we need to look anesthesia, and it goes deeper and things like that. So, somebody that has never brushed their teeth for a long time need radial surfacing. Usually, you never need this in your life. Right? If you brush your teeth from time to time and you go to a dentist every 5 years, you never need radial surfacing in your life, basically. Yeah. But now you start thinking about, hey, people that I'm proposing rinseless brushing to somebody that is losing their teeth is useless. But we need to talk about radial surfacing. Yeah? Again, this is a very ridiculous attempt to make parallels with DDD and TDD and craft and design, and right? Please see the parallels. So, agility. Anyway, maturity models. So, maturity models. Have you ever seen a maturity model in your life, somewhere, in a company? Ever been victim to it? Maturity models are things we draw to say, hey, we have those teams, and those teams here are better at the skill, those are less better in the skill, and we want to improve the skill of those teams here. Yes? Have you saw that? Those people here are not that good at agility yet, but they will be. They are level 1 of 5, and they need to go to 2 of 5 in agility. How do we measure 2 of 5? We have a list of things. Yeah? Of craft, of domain-driven design, I don't care. Right? People do maturity models in companies when they do transformations of companies a lot. And those maturity models, they are treated as prescriptive, and they are created usually descriptive. Yeah? We tend to look at the teams we find are performing well, we list the things we find that were good about them, and then we create a list, and this list is immediately treated as prescriptive. Make sense? Everything's good? Okay, let's go. Which begs the question, raises the question, why do we treat the descriptive as prescriptive? Why do we do that to ourselves? Because we know it will be suffering, right? People create a list of things that we should be doing, that those that people are doing, it becomes a list of we should be doing, but just copying people is not a recipe for success, and not everything is copyable at all. We're not ready to iterate on what we have. We want this easiness of just following what somebody else did, but does not always translate into happiness. Yeah? So, there are many explanations to that. I cannot give a single explanation that ties it all, but I'll make an hypothesis with you here. Are you okay with that? Let's talk about algophobia. No relation to algorithms. So agoraphobia is the fear of pain, yeah? Algorithms comes from algorithm. It was a guy. He was, well, modern day Iran. He was like from this area of the world. It comes from his name. His name comes from the land of black earth. That's what it means, algorithm. That is something related to the guy that came from the land of black earth. That's it, yeah? Agoraphobia comes from the Greek, not from the Arab, and comes from algos, which means pain, and phobia, which means fear. So totally different etymologies, totally different anything else. There is no pain in algorithms. Algorithms are just shy. So, agoraphobia is the fear of pain. We fear pain. And specifically, I will talk about nihilism. So, this entire talk is about nihilism. I don't know if that was obvious before, but I would like to make this explicit now. Let's talk about nihilism, yeah? And to do that, I need to use this meme. Do you know this meme? Copy image, put in here. Heartbreaking, the worst person you know just made a great point. Right? I will be talking about Nietzsche and Heidegger, and this is not, I repeat, not me condoning neither Nietzsche nor Heidegger. They were awful people. They made a great point once, yeah? I mean, Heidegger was a literal Nazi, like, not going there, like, just not condoning those people. They just made a great point, and we're talking about nihilism now, okay? Let's go there. So, nihilism. Nihilism meant a very specific thing for thousands of years, and then Nietzsche? I don't care. Then that dude changed the meaning of the word itself forever. So if you ask a random person in this conference of what is nihilism, chances are the person will answer something like, always when people don't have any meaning for their life and they don't care anymore or something like that. Like that's the average vague answer people get. Yeah? Make sense? Have you heard some answers that go in that direction in your life? Maybe. Like if you watched The Great Lebowski, you probably have something closer to that, right? And we will give a more detailed answer in this talk, but that answer is already closer to the Nietzsche definitions than the definition that we have for thousands of years before Nietzsche, right? Before Nietzsche, it was the Catholic Church that defined nihilism, right? And the definition was, you lost your connection to God. You losing your religion, right? And because you lost your connection to God, you lost your connection to good and evil, and because you lost your connection to good and evil, well, nothing matters to you anymore. You can just murder people now, right? That's basically what was nihilism before Nietzsche, yeah? Make sense? And you can still hear that, even in interviews today, when we see some religious folks, especially in the US, saying things like, hey, atheists, if you don't believe in God, what's keeping you from murdering people, and things like that, right? That phrase, have you heard that phrase somewhere in your life, right? That's like the remains of what was called nihilism before, yeah? No longer the case since Nietzsche. Nietzsche was, from the Catholic definition of nihilism, was a nihilist in the strict sense of the term. He literally wrote a book called Beyond Good and Evil, right? That tries to create an ethics without those two concepts. So he was a literal nihilist from the Catholic's definition. So he did a bit of recuperation and decided to reuse the word nihilism to mean an entirely different thing. And it worked. That's like, I gotta give it to him, it worked, right? People don't think about losing religion when they think about nihilism today, right? Which is, wow. Yeah? So, what is nihilism as per my understanding of Nietzsche? Like, again, caveat emptor, Nietzsche loved writing in small aphorisms and things like that, so you kind of have to have your own understanding of Nietzsche. That's my understanding that I'm sharing with you. Maybe I'm wrong. Read yourself. Reach your conclusions. Curious to you. So, for Nietzsche, nihilism would be people are wary of themselves, and so they avoid themselves. You are fleeing introspection, fleeing the pain of looking inward. It makes you sad to look inward, so you try to avoid it. So you try to avoid yourself. Yeah? That's his definition. He talks about 5 different ways we do nihilism, but just how we do it. Like, this is, nihilism is this, and how we do this, he talks about 5 different ways we do it, which I'm covering in the talk right now. Yeah? He talks about petty pleasures, talks about orgy of feelings, talks about herd formation, talks about mechanical activity, and it talks about self-hypnosis. Right? 5 different ways we do some nihilism. Yay? Yay. So, petty pleasures is you arrive at home, you decide to turn off your brain, and you open Netflix. Yeah? Again, each one of those 5 could be done easily without nihilism, right? It's not because you do one of those 5 that you are being nihilistic. Is you're doing it to be nihilistic, right? It's a way we do it. It's not doing it necessarily means so. Arriving at home and watching Netflix could just be resting, yeah? We're not saying that resting is nihilistic. We're saying when you start arriving at home and putting Netflix to turn off your brain in order to avoid looking inward, there you've been nihilistic, yeah? Make sense? Very different from just resting. So it is petty pleasures is that the small pleasures of life that we just lose ourselves into in order as a path towards not looking inward. Yeah? Orgy of feelings are the big pleasures of life, like you go get punch drunk, or you go to a literal orgy, or you go to eat a lot at a very beautiful restaurant, or you go jump on a plane or do drugs or something like that. Like you seek a very hedonistic, strong sensation in order to numb the rest and not look inward. Yeah? Make sense? And again, you could do those things and not be nihilistic. Like, are you doing them to free yourself or not? Yeah? That's the main question here of Nietzsche. Yeah? Make sense? Then we have herd formation. Have you ever been to like a football match or something like that? Or like a very intense church mass where people are like there, like you are with a group, and that group becomes bigger than you, and being part of that allows you to dissolve in the group. Have you heard of experienced something like that? Yeah? Some people do this with political rallies, right? Some people do this with soccer. Some people do this with carnival. Some people do this with the King's Day in Netherlands or something like that. Like you're just part of a big group of people, and being part of a big group of people allow you to dissolve in that mass of people. Yeah, and then you can avoid looking inward. Again, herd formation that does not stop you from looking inward is not nihilistic. It's just herd formation, right? Yeah. Self-hypnosis is you take a belief and you believe very strongly in it, and it allows you to avoid looking inwards. For example, you start believing things like, my kids will give meaning to my life. No longer need to look inwards. Right? Or you choose a very specific set of religious beliefs that allow you to shield yourself from looking inwards or something like that. Like, there's a lot of self-hypnosis that going on, and you choose specific beliefs to protect you from that looking inward. In mechanical activity, for Nietzsche, it was, I'll do very repetitive things, like I just produce, and by doing those very repetitive things, I can like just numb myself in this activity until I'm very tired and I do not need to do anything anymore. And so I don't have to look inward again. Heidegger augmented that in a very beautiful way. I gotta give that to him, unfortunately, even though I hate his guts. He said, oh, mechanical activity is that, but mechanical activity is also, I try to find the daddy machine. I try to find a process or a machine where I can give the responsibility of taking decisions to that process or machine. Right? When you explain to people how to do agility, they just want to like have a very specific process that they follow mechanically, which will with the hope that this will bring success without thinking about the current situation. That's mechanical activity as per Heidegger. Yeah? I'll take the process or the machine and I just want to follow it blindly without questioning it or taking a lot of look inwards what we're living right now onto this. And by doing so, I can escape. I will follow my GPS into a lake, basically. Yeah? I want ChatGPT to answer things for me instead of thinking about them. Make sense? Again, you could do a lot of mechanical activity and not be avoiding yourself, right? Like, the main central question of nihilism is, are you avoiding yourself when you do all that? But those are heuristics, like, if you are doing those 5 things, probably, yeah? Probably avoid yourself somewhere. So, there are some tricky things here. Let's go for tricky, yeah? You could say, oh, I know, now I will not avoid myself. The only thing I have to do is like, if the problem is the fear of pain, I just have to accept the pain, I go deeply into it, yeah? Orgy of feelings. Right? Like nihilism is tricky, right? It hides inside you, right? Orgy of feelings. I just go for the pain. I will spend all my time looking inward in a way that avoids me looking inward elsewhere inside me. Right? Yay. Right. Or you could say something like, hey, I'm not nihilistic. I'm just not. Like I do all those things, but I don't do them to avoid myself. I don't have no fear looking inward. I'm just good. I'm good. Yeah? That would be, actually, you'll be in very good company. That's basically Nietzsche's opinion of himself, yeah. And that's self-hypnosis, right? Yeah. We have a lot of very good ways of avoiding yourselves while telling yourselves we are not avoiding yourselves, yeah? And specifically, through algophobia and nihilism, and specifically mechanical activity, we tend to look at maturity models and treat them as they were process we can follow to have immediate success. And we turned the descriptive into prescriptive because we are looking for prescriptions. Because we want a daddy machine that takes over for us. Yay! And the invitation then is to gather a look at this and be able to discuss among themselves about are we being nihilistic, and to be able to look at this and introspect on that. And there is no, like, we live in a nihilistic society, so we learn to do this since very little. Unlearning this is a lifelong endeavor. You will not just not do it, right? It's a matter of realizing when you are doing it and when you can do something about it. Make sense? But then being able to look at companies and see the effects of everybody being nihilistic together, and they converge towards a lot of things that makes us very sad, and those things loop back into giving even more desire to not look inward. It's a very self-sustaining cycle and system. It's a very beautiful homeostasis. Does it make sense? Did you know that there are two dentistry associations, UK and the US, only those two, that believe that brushing teeth twice a day is actually superior to 3 times a day? The others do not agree with them, so I don't know who actually is right here, but like those two dentistry associations, they believe that we cannot measure what is better to do in the 3rd time, but you can measure the enamel degradation of overbrushing. So trade-offs, and maybe it's a better trade-off. We don't know. The question is, every skill can be unlearned and relearned and evolved. And the small skills deserve to be so. And our desire for them to be stable and fixed is a nihilistic desire in itself. And part of you, right now when I say all this, maybe it's designing, how can I get out of this? How can I? Romeu, I see the problem, how can I get out of this cycle? That part of you is like hoping that I have an easy answer to that. And that easy answer, that's mechanical activity, my friends. That's all I have to you. Any questions? Anything? Yay! I want to cycle back to one thing. Spending a normal amount of time on the internet looking for stuff, hurt formation, petty pleasures, and orgy of feelings. Yes? Like, we all do it. The question is, can we have some introspection on how we are doing and when we are doing it? Yeah? Thank you very much. Let's do this.